So time management, we're having this topic tonight because in a lot of your jobs, it's not a matter of ever catching up, right? It's more this ongoing process of just keeping your head above water. Does that sound like anybody's job? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, so that's why we're having this class, because we need to come up with a way to work with that. We need to come up with a way to work with that. We need some time management techniques to move us through this never-ending workload, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Time-saving habits, they're going to make you more successful in your job. So 2 quick points, and then we're going to jump right into your handout. The first point is the quality of our lives is largely determined by the quality of our time management. Now, what do you think I mean by that? What are some ways I could mean that? Quality of our lives largely determined by the quality of our time management.
Make it harder on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, make it harder on yourself. We all agree with that? Yes. What are you going to say?
I mean, if we don't manage work or set things right, then there's no time for family, no time for the other things in life besides work.
Yes, that's one of our themes tonight. You're going to have a lot more time of your own when you can get things at work done more efficiently. Exactly. What else? Stress. Lack of time management ever causes stress? Yes. And then does stress ever cause problems in relationships with people? So there's that. How about promotion at work or success at work? Absolutely, you're going to be more successful at work. I'm going to show you how that works as we go through the evening when you can get things done. And actually that point leads right into the second point I want to make before we get into the handout. And that is, and I'm going to quiz you on this one later. So remember this, because this is I'm going to quiz you on later. And that is, if you save just 1 hour a day, at the end of a year, you're going to have a month and a half of 40-hour work weeks. Now we're going to show you lots of ways tonight we can save 1 to 2 hours a day. But even just 1 hour a day, if you save 1 hour a day, at the end of a year, you have a month and a half of 40-hour work weeks. Can see how some people are going to be more successful if they're better time managers? They got an extra month and a half to get that project done, to get some new clients, whatever your business is. Or, just as Peter was saying, have more time outside of work. Some people are bumbling and scattered and stumbling through, not getting done, and you are taking more time doing what hopefully after this class we can get done faster, so we have more time outside of work and more time to succeed within work. So turn to page 2, because I want you to get started thinking about this. If you look on page 2, what are some of your time management challenges? What are some of your time wasters? So we're just going to we're going to do this really fast, like in 4 minutes or so. But with the people next to you at your table, just do these 2 things on page 2. Current time wasters, jot down a couple of those, or time management challenges, however you want to look at it. Get a couple of those down. And then on the other side, flip side, what time management techniques do you currently use that work to kind of help you get through the workload that you have? So get both those down. We'll go table to table and ask you what you came up with afterwards. So turn to page 3. That's a good thing to just kind of get you started thinking, okay, what are some of my challenges? What are some of the things that I do that do help me? So a lot of you have good tips already that we're going to share as the evening goes along. I want you to take a lot of notes as we go through the night, because you can get lots of tips. You're not going to remember them if you don't write them down as we go. So hopefully you'll take lots of notes. So on page 3, it's kind of a starting point for this time management stuff, and that is clarifying your goals and objectives. What are you supposed to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish? A lot of us are working really hard, but we're not really sure on our objectives. We're not totally clear on our objectives. So what I'd like you to fill in on the top of that page is we want to plan and organize our time in such a way that we accomplish our most important goals in the shortest amount of time. Now, what are the most important words in that sentence? Shortest amount of time, most important goals. The most important goals part is, absolutely, the part that's underlined in italic. That's what's important. Not that we plan and organize, not that we accomplish, not that we go do things in the shortest amount of time, but that we're working on the right thing. That's what we're going to talk about next, to make sure that we're focused on the right thing. A lot of us are busy, 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 working late, running down the hallway, doing all this, but we're not working on the right thing. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So how do we do this? How many people here are in customer service? How many people here are in customer service? We all are, right? I'm in customer service, you're in customer service. No matter what our job is, I've got clients I've got to make happy. You've got clients you've got to make happy. So the first thing we have to think about is, who is our main customer? Who are our main customer or customers? Because it's easy if I'm selling something in a store, right? But we all have main customer or customers. So who are they and what do they want us to be doing? Because if we think of anybody in any job, the most successful people please the most customers. So our first goal, what we're going to get for each of you tonight as we go through an exercise, is who are your customers? Because it could be one person. Your main customer could be your manager. Or your main customer could be customers in a store. It could be the city of San Diego. You know, it depends on what your job is. You might have 1 or 2 or 10 or 1,000 main customers. So we're going to do an exercise a little later, a little bit, so you can figure out who your main customers are. But keep that in mind. We've got to be doing the right thing that they want us to be doing. Otherwise, we're not going to be successful. So that's right in the middle of page 3. What were you hired to do? What's most important about your job? What are your key result areas? A lot of us spend a lot of time doing things that are not the most important. And what I'm going to say next is one of the most important themes of the night. One of the things that people who are not good time managers often do is they think that everything is a priority. Everything is not a priority. And that's a skill to know what is a priority. Because you really can only do one thing at once. Even though we kind of try to do 3, 4, 5, 6 things at once now these days, we really are just doing one. And then we're switching 1 second later maybe to something else. But we're really doing one thing at a time. And the skill of being able to prioritize, and I hope you jot some of this down. I see people doing that, and I'm glad, because this is all going to tie together. The skill of being able to prioritize what I need to do now, what I need to do in 10 seconds, in 2 minutes, and next Tuesday is a skill. And a lot of people don't have that. I think where we might see it most is maybe if you give, how many people currently supervise people? Is everyone currently supervising? Okay, almost everybody. And if we don't, we have our own supervisors. And we probably have seen it most where, as a supervisor, we give someone something to do and they're like, oh, but I've got all these other things to do. And we kind of have to say sometimes, you don't have to do it right now. You know, first do this, then do this. I really need this by 2, or I need this by next Wednesday. We prioritize for people. Don't we do that all the time? And when people freak out when they get one more new thing, that's often because they don't have that skill of prioritizing and realizing that they're just going to have to do one thing, and then they're going to do another thing later, and another thing later. So we're going to keep coming back to that theme, but a lot of people don't get that, and it's a very important point. Everything is not a priority. It's a skill to be able to know what you've got to do now, 10 minutes from now, half hour from now, 2 hours from now. So we're going to keep coming back to that. And that leads us to this, the 80-20 Pareto principle. Who's heard of that, the 80-20 principle? Beth, can you tell us what that's all about?
20% of the people do 80% of the work?
Yeah, that's one application. You see it in all different kinds of ways, and that's absolutely one. What we're talking about is things like, to piggyback on what Beth's saying, things like if you go in organizations across the board, 80% of business come from 20% of clients. Maybe more interesting even to us is 80%, and to what you said a moment ago, is as far as one of your challenges, is 80% of our problems come from 20% of people. And in time management, how I want to use it, and if you jot this down then we can talk about it, is 20% of what we do accounts for 80% of the value of what we do. So jot that down. 20% of what we do accounts for 80% of the value of what we do. So what does that mean? What does that mean?
80% of it is a waste of time.
Or we could say, because Peter, you were kind of shaking your head. How would you say it? So
I was kind of going the other way, that we spend 80% of our time on the 20% of people that are causing problems.
Okay, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that too.
That we're spending 80% of our time to resolve the small part that's not keeping our day or keeping things on schedule. Whereas
Yes. In performance, I'm going to be teaching the performance management class that we have in about a month. And that's one thing we'll talk about that. We don't want to be doing that. Now we do exactly what Peter said, where we're focusing on these problem people who might or might not make it in our organization. And we really need to be focusing on the leaders of tomorrow for the organization. So we're going to talk more about that. The part, too, about this that I want to say for the time management, it also means that if we're working on that right 20%, if we're working on the right 20%, then we're really going to get our bang for the buck, right? If we're doing, as you're kind of saying, Peter and Beth are saying too, if we're focusing on that wrong 20%, we're not going to get much bang for the buck. So we want to be focused on the right things. It says on the top of page 3 there, being focused on the most important thing. not just doing anything, not just working fast, harder, longer. If anybody came to learn how to work faster, longer, harder, you're not going to get it here because you got to be focused on the right thing. That's what we're talking about now. This is kind of a corny saying, but I like it and it illustrates what we're talking about. You can't catch a rabbit when you're chasing 9. Right? We got to focus. We've got to focus. A lot of people are very scattered workers. Don't have a lot of focus. To be successful, we've got to be able to focus, and that's what we're going to be talking about the next few minutes. And it says this on the bottom of page 3. This is the first step to time management. Bottom of page 3. Do you know what you're trying to achieve? You've got to be absolutely clear on what you should be working on at any given time. And I love the quote that's in your book, and it's also up on the screen. Doesn't matter how fast you run if you're not running towards the finish line. That's where we get away from. It doesn't matter what long hours you work. It doesn't matter how fast you're running down the hall. It just matters that you get the right stuff done. That's what we're focusing on right now. Who are your most important customers, customers, and what do they want you to be doing? Because every one of us does extra stuff that's not the most important stuff. So we're going to try to get you focused on the most important stuff. That's really going to be the things you need to focus on. So as it says, the last thing on page 3, what's the most important thing I could be working on right now? That really ties into what we said a moment ago, right? Everything is not a priority. Everything is not a priority. So what do I need to be working on right now? When I'm in the office part of my job, I'm asking myself that all day long. Is this the most important thing I could be doing? I'm making this phone call, I'm working on this handout, or I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Is this really the most important thing that I can be doing right now? Because there's a lot of stuff that I can be doing, like checking my emails. I'm still so guilty of that. I gotta check my email before I start the project. That's really important. Check my email. It's been 5 minutes. I'm sure something really big has come in. You know, we do all these things that are really distracting us from our main tasks. One other illustration of this. You get into a car, because I really want to get this point, because then we're going to do the exercise where you find out for each of you what your most important customers are and what they want you to be doing. Right before that, one other illustration. You get into a car. You're going on a driving trip, but you don't know where you're going. But you just drive faster. Is that a good strategy? Yeah, a lot of times we do that, right? Again, we work longer hours, we work weekends, we go faster, but we're not focused on the destination, like in the car trip. We got to know what our destination is, then we can figure out how to get there. At work, what we're talking about, top of page 3 there, we've got to know what our goals are. We've got to know what we're supposed to be accomplishing at work. We've got to know who our most important customers are and what they want us to be doing, and then we can figure out a path. But we've got to get that destination in mind, just like when we're in a car. So just going faster isn't time management. It's going smarter. It's knowing what you're supposed to be working on. So let me illustrate this with a puzzle. I'm going to put a puzzle up on the screen. If you know the answer, do not say it out loud. Just raise your hand. Don't say it out loud, but raise your hand if you know the answer or when you know the answer. But first, I do need a volunteer to be our scribe. All you have to do is write. You don't have to, we'll tell you what to write. Who would like to write in purple benefits of delegation? Good. Thank you, Krista. Okay, so this table here, what's one of the benefits you came up with?
Make your work more productive.
Absolutely. More productive. Let's get that one up there. You're not doing it all alone. You're going to be more productive. Somebody else, what's another benefit of delegating? Yes?
Well, sort of on the same lines, but it frees you up to focus on priority items.
Excellent. Frees you up to do priority items. Frees you up to do priority items. Frees you up to do higher level tasks. Right? Frees you up to do what you were hired to do. Back to that page 4, where we're talking about what's the big picture of what you were hired to do. Who are your most important customers? What do they want you to be doing? It frees you up to do that. If you think of anybody, we talked about earlier how important it is for your success to be able to delegate, that if you think of any top manager who's now not currently in prison, if you think of any top manager, they delegate. You had to delegate. You're not going anywhere if you can't delegate to people. That's what a manager does, is get people, get your team to do stuff. So if you're doing everything yourself, you're not going to be successful. So delegating frees you up to do these higher level tasks that you were hired to do. What else?
Training.
Training. You're giving people training. You're giving them new stuff to do. You're making them more marketable or whatever. Training. It's exciting. It keeps the energy going. What else does it do?
Keeps them busy.
Keeps them busy. Okay. Absolutely does that. Because there's nothing worse than just being bored and doing the same old thing and being bored. You want to keep them interested, keep them busy. They're training, they're learning new stuff. What else? Oh, let's put creativity up there. Because you're not deciding everything, you're not doing everything your way, but you get other people's ideas in there. So you're going to get some new creativity, new ideas. It also builds what?
Morale.
Builds morale. Builds morale. And I'd add also that it builds trust, it builds a team. So morale, the team, so let's put that too. Builds morale, builds team, builds trust, all of that. When you're asking someone to do something, that's showing you that you're trusting them.